call Mr. Michael Copeland.
Thank you very much, Mr. Principal Deputy Speaker, and I rise to echo the appeals to the Minister to properly fund appropriate commemorations in connection with the outbreak of the Great War, in particular work being undertaken quite close to my own heart, East Belfast in the Great War, which is staggering for want of funding. The final act in the Great War, and has some resonance even today, was the closing of the war map. And present when the war map was closed was Winston Churchill, who later went on to become a war leader during the Second War, which had its seeds in the failure to satisfactorily conclude the First. And as the map was closed, he spoke rather prophetically that now that the greatest conflagration in the history of mankind had been concluded, the dreary steeples of Fermanagh and Tyrone would re-emerge from the mist, restating the integrity of their struggle. A sentiment which on some occasions is echoed even to this day in this very chamber. The truth is, 353,000 Irish men and women of all no religions volunteered in the absence of subscription to serve in the forces of the British Army, Navy and Air Force. Indeed, one rather famously remarked, foreseeing his own doom, that those he guarded he did not love, and those he fought he did not hate. That his people, his place it was Kiltartan Cross, and his people were Kiltartan's poor. The sacrifice, and I use the word advisedly, of the island of Ireland, of the former Empire and Commonwealth, was on a scale that is almost beyond human comprehension in this day and age. And it did very much set the seeds for the world as it emerged subsequently. The stories that need to be told are not the stories of generals or of kings or of prime ministers or of emperors. It's the story of the common man and woman, bound by instinct to duty and prepared to face the unfaceable, to do the inconceivable in the service of a notion of patriotism. My own experience, which is very limited, there is little glory in war. There is little honour in war. But war is, in many cases, a necessity that cannot be escaped and cannot be avoided. Many years ago, I read an incident that sort of summed up the commonality of spirit that pertained within the Irish regiments of the British Army, a tradition that goes on this day through the Irish Guards and the Royal Irish Regiment, where elements of the 36th Ulster Division, just before the Second Battle of Wishart, were relieved by elements of the Royal Munsters. And during the handover inspection, the Colonel and the RSM of both units visited what were called the displacements, and they entered a large sandbagged bastion in Brazier. The Northern Colonel looked at his Southern counterpart and admitted that his men had built this place from the sweat of their brow and the ache of their muscles, and called it Derry's Walls. He looked and said, "I suppose and dare say your men will change its name." And the Southern Colonel, Irish and Catholic, grabbed his Northern counterpart by the hand in the teeth of an almost incomprehensible impending maelstrom, and swore that the men of Munster would hold Derry's Walls for their Northern compatriots. There was a chance after that war that things in Ireland could be settled peacefully. Unfortunately, the experiences that came from that war produced a large number of Republican irregulars who had seen service in Irish regiments in the service of the Crown, fighting against the Crown for the freedom as they saw it of Ireland, and a number of battle-hardened former officers making up the auxiliaries and, in some cases, the Black and Tans. The truth is, we remain one people on one island, several communities, manacled by history to the opposite ends of the same chain. That will allow us to walk in parallel or to walk towards each other. And in displaying an appropriate degree of understanding for the significance of the events about what we're talking, the Minister, by adding her weight and her financial support and discharging her duty on behalf of all of the people of Northern Ireland, could do worse than look kindly upon this motion. Thank you, sir.